Hey! Hey! Hey, wake up! Wake up! You gonna review me today? You gonna review me? You gonna review ColecoVision? You gonna review ColecoVision? Coleco wants to be reviewed. Review ColecoVision. Hey, it's me, it's Coleco. Oh. Why won't you review ColecoVision? ColecoVision wants to be reviewed.
That's it. I'm going to go see the new Terminator movie. Hey everybody, it's the Metal Geek. How y'all doing? So today I went to the movies. I went to the movies because there was a little voice in my head that wouldn't stop.
It's ColecoVision! ColecoVision!
ColecoVision, I will review you, but at my pace and my time. You got that? Okay guys, I'm back. No, seriously, I'm back. I'm not crazy. So yeah, anyway, I went to the movies today, and I went and saw Terminator Genisys. Okay guys, for those of you who know me, I am a gigantic fan of sci-fi and fantasy. And, well, the Terminator series has been a long-standing tradition of a sci-fi franchise in my life. We're talking over 30 years ago that the original movie came out. So this franchise has been out for a long time, and I have been watching it for a long time. I own the original movie. And of course, I own Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Every sci-fi fan has got to have this in their collection. I have Terminator Salvation, which say what you want about this film, but I love post-apocalyptic stuff. I also own Season 1 of Terminator, The Sarah Connor Chronicles, and I also own Season 2. Now, I do have a copy of Terminator 3, The Rise of the Machine somewhere around here. I just can't really find it at the moment, but I do own it, and yeah, I actually do enjoy that film, despite a lot of people don't really care for it. And that brings us to today. Now guys, it is without saying that if you are watching at this point, major spoiler alert! No, seriously, if you are watching, yes, I am going to spoil things. I'm going to spoil many things, but in all honesty, I'm probably not going to spoil as much as the trailers did anyway. Terminator Genisys is the 5th movie in the franchise, and it also marks the return of longtime favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger, playing the Terminator once again in this film.
I'll be back.
Now, like in the previous films, he is playing his T-800 model, and so there isn't really a lot of differences, except for the fact that you're going to notice that he has noticeably aged, which in this film they actually explain why he aged. Which means in real life our government is just getting a little bit older, but how do you explain that in the film? Well, they did in pretty much 4 seconds in one simple line. Terminator's skin and muscle is organic, just like real human skin and muscle. Therefore, it ages just like any human being.
I'm too old for this shit.
In this particular movie, the Terminator, or nicknamed or guest named Pops in this movie, and I'll get to that in a bit, has been protecting Sarah Connor since the 1970s, actually. So by the time the movie jumps throughout the timelines, and I'll get to that in a second too, and reaches all the way to the distant future of 2017, 2 years from now, 2017, 2 years from now. Our T800 model is looking just a little worn around the edges, but not obsolete. The general gist of the storyline is that this is rewriting the Terminator history. Well, it is and it isn't. They're not erasing anything that's happened beforehand in the previous films, but they are introducing us to a new independent timeline.
Take me away, I don't mind, but you better promise me I'll be back in time. Right, Scott!
Whoa, this is heavy.
There's that word again, heavy. Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
The movie pretty much starts off where you would think we're just going to go straight into the plot of the first film. We're in the distant future with John Connor. He saves Kyle Reese when he's a kid. Kyle Reese pretty much becomes his right-hand man, and they decide to try to take out the Terminators and Skynet in general, and they do. Right at the very beginning of the film, they take out Skynet. But before Skynet's taken out, it sends the original T-800 model back in time to kill Sarah Connor in the 1984 Terminator film. And of course, that has to be prevented, so hence, Kyle Reese goes back in time to protect Sarah Connor from the T-800. Cue the first movie. Or do we? Okay, this is where things take a flip, guys. This is where things change quite a bit. I mean, at first, we start getting shot-for-shot recreations of the original film. They didn't actually use footage from the original film. I read somewhere, I think Arnie himself said that they couldn't use footage from the first film due to right issues, but they shot-for-shot recreated it and even digitized a younger version of Arnie's face onto a new male body to recreate those scenes from the first film, and it is actually legitimately shot for shot perfect, and it's actually quite amazing. Really quite amazing. But then we get some differences, some major differences, and that is, one, we have a T-1000 in play. That's right, remember the scene in the first movie? Again, there's spoilers here, guys, so if you're watching, I'm ruining everything for Terminator. But remember in the first film when Kyle Reese first comes back and the cops chase him and they go into the mall and he gets clothing and he gets away? Well, that's all happening except for one of the cops chasing him is actually not the cops from the original film. It's actually a T-1000, a T-motherfucking 1000. That is right. We have a T-1000 in the first movie, or in the fifth movie, that has parts from the first movie. There's a lot going on in this movie.
My brain hurts!
So back to the plot. We have a T-1000 chasing after Kyle Reese, who has no idea what he's up against, because you gotta remember, T-1000s were not developed at the time that Kyle Reese went back in time to save Sarah Connor. At that point, the most advanced models were the T-800s. So anyway, Kyle Reese is running away, going through the mall, and there are two other cops that become involved that he bumps into, and they try to arrest him. And what ends up happening is the T-1000 comes up and kills one of the cops, and the other cop gets saved when, BAM! A truck comes through the wall and saves the cop and Kyle Reese, and then the door opens up, and sitting in the seat is none other than, you thought I was going to say the T-800, didn't you? But no, it's Sarah Connor. Yeah, that's right, Sarah Connor, guys. 1984 original film, Sarah Connor, blonde, a little weak and meek, and gets really strong because of her experiences with the T-800 and being saved by Kyle Reese and all that. No, this is not that one. This is a brunette. Yeah, that's right. This is a brunette Sarah Connor, and she's already kicking ass and taking names. Now, don't take this wrong, because what happens in the previous films is still part of its own timeline. This is just a new timeline with new rules and how everything works. But back to the story. So Sarah Connor saves Kyle Reese, and in the process saves a cop. She takes off, goes down the road, the T-1000 chases after her in an epic chase scene, and, well, things get interesting from there, because then comes the T-800. That's right, we're talking the awesome T-800. Now, not to confuse anybody, but to bring up a previous scene, the T-800 that goes back to kill Sarah Connor comes back in time as normal, but then an older T-800 comes into that scene and basically beats the snot out of the younger T-800 and is helped by Sarah Connor, and they take it out and all that good stuff. So the T-800 that I'm talking about from this point forward is the older T-800, the one that's reprogrammed to protect Sarah Connor. See, the way the movie works out is a lot of confusion, as in Kyle's not going to trust the T-800 for a long time because, well, it's a T-800 and all he knows Terminators to do is to kill. Again, remember that the T-800 that protects John Connor in the second movie, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, was reprogrammed and sent back to protect John after Kyle's death. So once again, this is all new to Kyle. Kyle's not familiar with Terminators being reprogrammed and sent back to protect people. So trust issues? Yeah, there are trust issues in this movie. And it doesn't stem just between Kyle and the Terminator. It also goes between Sarah and Kyle. Because Sarah, this is not the same Sarah Connor from the 1984 film. This Sarah Connor has been being trained to be a soldier since she was a kid by the T-800. So Sarah Connor, in so many words, became the John Connor from Terminator 2 Judgment Day. She was the kid, she got raised to be the soldier, and now she is a strong character that doesn't trust a lot of people. This hardened Sarah Connor doesn't really see how she is supposed to be forced, so to speak, into falling in love with Kyle so that she and him can father and mother the resistance leader of the apocalypse. She knows how important John is to the future of mankind, but she feels like she's being forced, like she can't choose, like she's not just going to fall in love with Kyle just because she has to fall in love with him. Of course, this does lead to several extremely hilarious jokes about them mating. Yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character of the T-800, aka Pops, is always being like, "Are you gonna mate?" And she's like, "Stop bringing that word up, or I'm not mating."
I wanna know what love is. I want you to show me.
So there is a lot of humor. Thankfully, a lot of it comes from Arnie, and Arnie is really awesome in this movie about hitting all those cues with the humor. But moving on, again, not to explain the entire storyline straight through, there's going to be a lot of things that happen. They get their hands on basically a time-traveling vortex, and they're going to jump to Judgment Day, basically, or to a point where Judgment Day is going to happen and stop it, which, according to Sarah Connor and in the original films, is 1997 that's supposed to happen, which in this new timeline, it's going to be 2017. And there is an argument between her and Kyle because she is dead set on going to 1997, and he is like, "No, I have obtained these memories that I don't remember having, and we have to go to 2017." Okay, let's not make this all confusing about how timelines work, because basically somehow Kyle gets these memories or something from a previous timeline or an alternate timeline Kyle reads when he's going through the vortex and something happens where Skynet gets John Connor and it causes this nexus rift and paradoxal. You know what? Explain it for me, Doc Brown.
Imagine that this line represents time. Here's the present, 1985, the future, and the past. Prior to this point in time, somewhere in the past, the timeline skewed into this tangent, creating an alternate 1985. Alternate to you, me, and Einstein, but reality for everyone else. Doc, what do you mean? The consequences of that could be disastrous. The encounter could create a time paradox, the results of which could cause a chain reaction that would unravel the very fabric of the space-time continuum and destroy the entire universe.
Okay, got it? You got it? No, I mean, neither do I. But somehow, Kyle gets these memories in his head, and he's dead set determined that Skynet is going to launch in 2017, and that is when Judgment Day is going to happen. So now he has got to convince Sarah that he's correct. And boy, does that lead to some arguing. Now this is where things start to get complicated. Once Kyle is able to convince Sarah that the right time is 2011 that they need to jump to, well, they jump. But let's keep in mind that the movie started in the future, the distant future, and then we go to our past, 1984. Now we're jumping to 2017. We're all over the place. Not that it's really that hard to follow, because in all honesty, it really isn't that hard to follow. But we're still jumping all over the place.
You can't bounce the bounce if you can't even pronounce the bounce. Repeat after Tigger. Now, half this bounce is 90% mental.
Now 2017, again, 2 years away, is not all that different from today. Cell phones, smartphones, computers, tablets, modern day cars, it's all there. And in fact, that's the moral of the story. Yes, I'm not joking. That's the moral of the story. Technology is going to do us in. Of course, this is what the Terminator has always been about. But in this particular case, this is what's going to do us in. The cell phone. That's right, the cell phone. This is the Terminator, people. It's looking at me right now. No. Be a good cell phone. Be a good cell phone. You're a Terminator. You're a Terminator.
I have voices in my head.
So basically, the modern day section of this story, of this movie, the 2017 section, there's this operating system that's being launched called Genisys, hence the name of the movie, Terminator Genisys. And this operating system is going to link everything, computers, tablets, phones, you name it, cars to dolphins, I don't know. But basically, it's going to combine and link everything, and, well, what was Skynet? In fact, guess who it is that develops this operating system? Yep, that's right, Cyberdyne. Now, Cyberdyne is being run basically by Danny at this point, which is Miles Dyson's son. I believe Miles isn't actually dead. I think Miles is in this movie, but they don't really name him in the movie, so I'm not going to say it is him. But it's Cyberdyne, along with the help of, and there's major spoilers here, guys, about to happen, with the help of John Connor. That's right, John Connor is helping launch Skynet, aka Genisys. How? Well, guys, again, not to go blow for blow with the story, but John Connor, well, he gets not terminated, but terminized. Yeah, he gets turned into a Terminator, and the most advanced Terminator to date. And we're not even talking liquid metal at this point. We're talking cybernetics with human tissue on a cellular level. In other words, he's organic and machine at the same time on the cellular level. So it's not just skin over a metal skeleton. It's literally every aspect of him is going to be both organic and machine. And his new mission? Make sure that Skynet is launched. Basically, the movie is cluttered. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of story that's happening from beginning, middle, and end, and the order in which the story is told is never 100% consistent. Or let me take that back. It's consistent, but it's definitely out of order. It plays with your emotions. For anyone who knows the first film and the second film, they're going to get right into the very beginning of this film and love probably the first 15 to 20 minutes with all their heart and soul, because it's a complete throwback to those films. But once we get into the timelines being played with, then that's where some people are going to totally hang in and go along for the ride, or they're going to get off the train, so to speak, and be extremely upset with where things go. Again, we started off in the distant future during the apocalypse, and then we moved to the 1984 past, and then we moved to the more contemporary 2017, not too distant future. 1984 and 2017 is where the largest chunk of the movie play out. That's right, the two biggest chunks of this movie are 1984 and 2017, and that's where everything kind of plays itself out. But then there's a lot of things that happen during these time periods that erase a lot of things that could happen, but there is a lot of plot holes in the movie. Now, the movie is very intelligent, and you could tell there was somebody that truly cared about what they were doing writing this, and someone who truly cared who was directing it. But there were a lot of things that just didn't make sense, or they made sense, or they tried to make sense of it in the movie by kind of giving a quick line as to how it doesn't make sense. One such example being where Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese are up against the Terminator, John Connor, and she is like, "Oh, you can't kill us, John, because if you kill us, you're never born, and if you're not born, you won't get turned into this Terminator and be looking for this future." And then John Connor's just like, "Oh, I'm not so sure that that's the case, We're all here, and I think we're just in a paradoxical timeline." And I'm just like, well, okay, it's a technobabble that explains away why things aren't making sense. And it does, and to some extent, make sense within the movie, but it's not giving any explanation to the viewer. And there are going to be plenty of times in the movie where that happens, where you're just not going to get the explanations that you want. If you are somebody who has to have everything spelled out for you, or even just a little more than what this movie does, that's going to annoy you. It's going to annoy you in a very, very big way. But what the movie does do right, it does it very right, and that's giving a great Terminator kind of action piece film that does try to tell a sophisticated story. It does try to do something new with a franchise that's been around for 30 years, and some people may feel they should just retire the franchise at this point. There's just plenty of stories you can still tell, and this one attempted to do that, and I have great props towards it for that reason. And the acting is fine. We have very serviceable acting, in some cases really great acting. Arnie is 100% on his game here. I love how he came into this, and he's the Terminator again. It doesn't matter if he looks a little older or not. He came right back into the role, both funny and serious, and he does a great, great job. Emilia Clarke is excellent as Sarah Connor. Now, I was a little skeptical at first because, I know she has the potential to play very kick-ass characters, but I wasn't sure if she was going to be on the Sarah Connor level. Now, I do know she plays a very kick-ass character on Game of Thrones, though I don't really know how that goes because I've never really watched Game of Thrones. Hey. But she comes in and does a great job and nails the hard-ass Sarah Connor from Terminator 2 Judgment Day with perfection. Now, Jason Clarke, on the other hand, who plays John Connor, excellent John Connor. Very believable. I could believe that this is the John Connor as he grows up from Terminator 2 onwards. And when he becomes the Terminator, he's still very sincere, but very maniacal, and it's very it's just, he does an excellent job because there's a part of you that wants him to actually succeed because he's got that much charisma. Now, Jai Courtney, nothing bad to say, but also nothing great. It's a very serviceable, well, very serviceable, I guess is the word to use. But he doesn't really have the charisma that oozes from like Arnold Schwarzenegger in this film. And he didn't have the chemistry that was really needed to go with Emilia Clarke. So even though Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor get together and it's believable enough, the chemistry could have been better, so to speak. But I mean, at least in this particular case, we get a whole movie dedicated to them falling in love rather than like 5 seconds in a sex scene in the first movie and bada bing bada boom, John Connor's conceived. And then we do get some stuff from like J.K. Simmons, which is excellent because anything he's in, whether it be voice acting like on The Legend of Korra or, you know, Spider-Man and all that cool stuff, he's got excellent timing. He's a funny guy. He's really the comic relief during the 2017 section of the movie. He is the older version of the cop that's saved in 1984 by Sarah when she crashes through the window and saves Kyle. So there is continuity there. He's a little bit wasted in this movie though, and not 100% used to his fullest potential, but it's always nice to see him, and I do like the fact that he nailed all the comedy in the movie like that. Visually, I think this movie is stunning. Now, mind you, they're not doing anything drastically different with certain things like the liquid metal in the T-1000. They're not going to change that. I mean, it's iconic. They came up with those effects way back in the early 90s, and it really worked then, and it doesn't date now, so why make any super changes to it? It also would be weird to change it up. Just pay homage and actually just use the effects as they should be, so don't expect anything majorly different when it comes to the T-1000s. But the John Connor Terminator, on the other hand, that's pretty cool. But you got big action pieces, explosions, buses flipping in the air, and motorcycles chasing cars down the road, and cars exploding, and blah, 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 blah. It's a Terminator movie. It's going to happen. Now, there are some people, basically, that are saying that this movie doesn't do anything drastic with its action scenes or big set pieces, so to speak. Which, for me, is fine, because it doesn't need to be all that big or different from the previous Terminator films. But I also see what they're saying. In 2015, when, you know, you could do anything, especially with CGI at our disposal now, why not go bigger, better, and more bombastic, so to speak? But does it have to, is the question. Does it have to? For me, it doesn't. I was perfectly fine with the action pieces here, and every time Arnie was throwing punches, it was a joy to see. Especially when Arnie is throwing punches against Arnie, and yeah, Pops against the T-800. Boom! So anyway, I told you before that his nickname is Pops, and I said I would explain that for you. Well, Sarah Connor was protected by the T-800 in the 1970s. She was attacked by a T-1000, and the T-800 model was reprogrammed to save her as a kid. Unfortunately, her family was, well, terminated, or killed, basically, and all that was left was the T-800 to take care of her. So the T-800, in so many ways, became her father, so she nicknamed him Pops. So we have Pops. Pops the Terminator. The Terminator Pops. Old, but not obsolete. All in all, this was a nice retelling of the Terminator storyline. It's going to go in a different direction. There is a planned trilogy, although it is going to depend on how much money this makes. But it is planned to be a trilogy, and I'm for one, am looking very forward to seeing how it goes. I was actually looking very forward to seeing how the Terminator Salvation series went, but that got cut short due to the first film not making a lot of money either. So let's hope that this one does make some money so that we can see where it goes. And if you're not part of that camp and you'd rather just see the franchise kind of like go away, that's fine too. But personally, me, I want to see where this goes because I think there's still a lot of life in this storyline. Now, of course, Arnie's not getting any younger, so if they're going to keep him on as a T-800, especially now that he's been upgraded, and oops, spoiler! Yeah, guys, spoilers. Again, he gets upgraded at the end of the movie. He gets knocked into the liquid Terminator metal thing, and it was earlier explained that the liquid metal is nothing without a chip, but it could also be integrated into other Terminators. That's actually established really early on in the movie when the T-1000 brings back the T-800, the younger version, using his liquid metal to repair him. So the liquid metal actually repairs the older T-800 when he's critically damaged at the end of the movie and incorporates that into him. So now he's not only just regular metal, he actually has liquid metal capabilities, and he's been upgraded for that. He's kind of like a hybrid model.
Result: concept study Porsche 918 Spider. High performance hybrid.
So overall, what do I think of the movie? Well, a lot of people aren't happy with the movie. I personally don't think the movie's as bad as a lot of people are saying. I mean, if you're one of those people that just don't care for the movie, that's cool. I totally respect your opinion. I just sit on a different field when it comes to this particular film because I thought it was a pretty good movie. I think it's a really good start to a trilogy as long as this particular movie will make that money to continue going with the trilogy. I enjoyed it. I loved having Arnie back, and I personally would give this movie about a 7.5 out of 10. Again, 7.5 out of 10. Guys, this is the Metal Geek saying, have a great one. Oh, and for those of you who are wondering why I made this an episode of the Retro Underground rather than one of my other review series, well, yeah, this particular film is 2015, but the actual franchise is 30 plus years old, and its first two films are definitely retro, and this film relies very heavily on those two films to tell its narrative, so I really felt it belonged here on the Retro Underground. So I really hope you enjoyed this, guys. I hope you come back and check out my next review, and I'll see you then. What? Well, you want to know what my next review is going to be? Well, here's a hint for you.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
At me now, have no fear. Lawless pain and senseless treachery. What have you done? You took the gun and you killed